Magical Girl Raising Project is a series that I finished quite recently. What happens when you play your favorite mobile game and you have the opportunity to become the character that you play as? But then you quickly start to realize that there's actually a hidden motive or there's a reason why you became the character that you are from the game. And the reason being is because now you're in the middle of a death match where only one survivor can be the only one to survive. Now, there is a lot of characters in this anime that are very interesting to see. Some are tragic characters, some more interesting characters, but of course, like always, there's always going to be characters that show us the evil that a person can be, and Swim Swim was no exception. Now, of course, this isn't actually her real name. Her real name is actually Ayana Sakanagi, but for the sake of this video, I'm just simply going to call her Swim Swim for the entirety. Now, Swim Swim is the definition of what happens when someone has a corrupt mindset and believes that there are certain ideals and beliefs that a person must have in order to be at the top or be considered a person that they always wanted to be. That's exactly what Swim Swim does, because due to her many beliefs and ideals, she will commit many evil acts as she feels this is the necessary thing to do, or this was something that she has to do whether she likes it or not. And to make it even more shocking, Swim Swim is actually still a kid. It is confirmed later on that Swim Swim is still a child, which makes what she did all the more shocking, because the last person that you expect to do so much evil is a child. But that's exactly what Swim Swim does all throughout the story, and it shows that even somebody who is extremely young is capable of doing a lot of evil things. Now, like I mentioned earlier, Swim Swim as well as the other characters will be granted the opportunity to become the characters of a game they play. More specifically, due to the game being all about magical girls, all these people will turn into the magical girls that they always wanted to be, or are the characters that they play on in this game. And Swim Swim was no exception. However, despite her having the chance to be a magical girl, her personality never really changed. Despite her getting all these powers, which was the power to go through any object like its water, Swim Swim was a very quiet individual. She didn't talk as much and she wasn't outgoing as some of the other characters of this series. So this very much indicates that Swim Swim only talked when it was only necessary to talk. But despite her being quiet for most of the time, there is one thing that she admires the most, and that is princesses. More specifically, she likes princesses that are in the top and are very perfectly fine commanding others. That is something that she always looks up to. So it's no surprise that when she meets another magical girl who goes by the name of Ruler, she quickly becomes loyal to her and listens and obeys to everything that she says, and actually starts to believe many of the things that Ruler says and many of her beliefs. So it's not surprising that eventually Swim Swim will be a part of Ruler's group that consists of other magical girls that she managed to get them to be in her group. And this is another magical girl who goes by the name of Tama, and two other magical girls who are named the Peaky Angels. But things take a turn for the worse when it's announced that obviously not everybody is going to be able to survive and still be the magical girl that they want to be. And whoever has the least amount of candies would not only lose their powers, but they would also die in real life as well. While many of the magical girls start to panic, Ruler is determined to not only make sure that she survives this, but also her entire group as well. And this will lead to them always making sure that they try to get the most candies as possible, even if it means using tactics that may be considered very bad and really messed up to be doing to someone. But of course, while this was all happening, this is where we start to see a change in Swim Swim. While she is still loyal to Ruler, and she still does everything that Ruler tells her to do, one day, a magical girl known as Nemorin enters in one of Swim Swim's dreams, and she sees that Swim Swim's dream is all about her seeing Ruler in a carriage. When Nemorin tells her that it's fine to always look up to people or have huge inspirations to be that person, it's also not a bad thing to become that thing that she always wanted to be. After hearing what Nemorin says, it will be at that point that Swim Swim's mindset would change. She will want to become the leader, and while she realizes that there's no way that Ruler is going to step down as a leader, there is a way that can make her sure that she is going to be the leader from now on, and that is making sure that Ruler is no longer alive. So one day when Ruler's group is tasked to try to steal candies from the other magical girls, this being a magical girl named Snow White, since she has the most candies, At first, everything starts going according to plan. Some members of Ruler's group is distracting another magical girl who goes by the name of La Pucelle in order to not get in the way, but Ruler and Swimson are the ones who are responsible for taking Snow White's candies. And while at first Ruler was confident that Swimson did just that, it will be revealed later on that while Swimson did steal a few of Snow White's candies, it wasn't the entirety. It was actually only half of it, and she only saved herself and as well as Tama and the Peaky Angels. And since Ruler had the least amount of candies, she would be the one to pass away. And since Ruler is no longer the leader of the group, Swimson would take the role as the leader. And while Swimson was the one responsible for Ruler's death, very quickly we see that even though Ruler is no longer around, Swimson still has the mindset and the many beliefs that she was taught by Ruler. As one of Ruler's beliefs is that if you want to stay at the top, you have to do whatever it takes in order to still be at the top. So having that in mind, Swimson is determined to still be at the top and still be the leader until the very end. And we quickly get to see this when magical items are introduced. The only catch with these magical items is that if you want these magical items, you have to in return give a few years of your life. And depending what the magical item is, that determines how many years of your life you have to give away in order to receive that magical item. And Swimson very quickly shows us how just very determined she is to survive till the very end by buying one of the most expensive magical items, this being an invincibility cloak that requires 25 years of your life in order to get it, and Swimson just buys it like it's nothing. But despite her buying this, she in return decides to trade it with another magical girl for an item that is known as the Magic Enhanced Halberd that was bought by Tama. And once she gets this item, she decides to name it Ruler, once again showing us just how loyal she was to Ruler and how Ruler is somebody that Swimson isn't going to forget for a really long time. And after acquiring these items, this is where Swimson reveals to the group what their plan is going forward, and that is to try to take down the magical girls that are a huge threat. Magical girls like Calamity Mary and Winter Prison are on the list, and one day when Sister Nana is actually visiting many different magical girls to cease fire as she doesn't want to be part of this death game anymore, and alongside her was Winter Prison, this is where Swimson's plan starts to take action, as this is a huge opportunity to take down two magical girls in a short amount of time. So when Sister Nana and Winter Prison are visiting the hideout that the group uses, this is where the group ambushed both of them. And while Winter Prison was able to put up a decent fight and even kill one of the Peaky Angels, she of course wouldn't survive, and this is because of Swim using her magical item, and that will be the end of Winter Prison. Despite everything that has happened and despite her literally losing one teammate, Swimson decides that there's no point in turning back, and despite seeing that the other two members are obviously traumatized by what has happened, tells them that their next target, this being Calamity Mary, is somebody that they're going to have to be even more careful because unlike Winter Prison, Calamity Mary is somebody who is not only a lot more ruthless than Winter Prison, but just like them, is also somebody that is willing to do anything in order to survive. And while Calamity Mary wouldn't be defeated by the group and would be defeated by another magical girl, this didn't stop Swim from taking another magical girl's life, and this magical girl is named Top Speed. What makes Top Speed's death even more tragic is when you come to find out that Top Speed wasn't the only one who died in this moment, as sadly it will be revealed that Top Speed was actually pregnant, meaning that at this moment Swim was responsible for 2 more deaths. But this wouldn't stop Swim as her next target would be Hardcore Alice, in which once she found out her actual identity, this would be just simply perfect for her to be taken down. As it was stated multiple times in the series that once you are able to figure out who the magical girl's true identity is, they become completely powerless, as if you were to attack them in a public space, they won't be able to transform as they wouldn't want to transform in public, and also not to mention that they wouldn't even have time to begin with to transform to their magical girl persona. And that's exactly what happened when Hardcore Alice was walking towards school, and while she quickly noticed that it was Swim Swim and she knew what was going to happen to her, she still tried to escape, but unfortunately, she wouldn't be able to escape Swim Swim as she would be stabbed repeatedly by Swim Swim. And once again, just like with Top Speed, what makes this even more tragic and sad is the fact that Hardcore Alice was a child. She was still a very young kid, so for her to die at such a young age was very tragic to see. And this doesn't even include her story, as Hardcore Alice has dealt with a lot in her life, and seeing that, you wanted to see her survive, you wanted to see her have a happy end. But unfortunately, just like any other series that involves survival, not every character is going to survive. The next target for Swim Swim was another magical girl who goes by the name of Cranberry, and just like Swim Swim, Cranberry is also a very twisted character as well. And unlike the other magical girls, Cranberry showed that she was a force to be reckoned with, as originally Swim Swim's plan was for her and her group to ambush her, but very quickly she realizes that Cranberry is somebody that is going to take a lot more to take down, as not only did Cranberry take down the last Piggy Angel, but she also seriously injured Tama as well. And while Swim Swim was determined to take her down, it wasn't going to be easy, as Cranberry used one of her sound attacks, which led to Swim Swim actually losing her transformation, revealing that it seems that sound attacks were probably one of Swim Swim's weaknesses. And just when it seemed that Cranberry won the battle, Tama came in for a surprise attack and actually managed to hit Cranberry, which resulted in her creating a hole in Cranberry that ended up being her death. Once Cranberry was no longer a threat, Tama went looking for Swim Swim and saw her not in her magical girl form, and this is where Swim Swim, upon seeing this, quickly transforms back into a magical girl, and Tama is just simply very happy to see that Swim Swim survived. But in a very dark twist, Swim Swim will end up taking Tama's life, and this will result into Tama's death, which completely caught off guard Tama, as even when she was dying, she was wondering why Swim Swim took her life, as she was doing everything Swim Swim told her to do. And it will be revealed that the reason why Swim Swim killed Tama in this moment was because of one of Ruler's rules, this being that no magical girl should be able to see the other one's identity. And if that scenario were to happen, then she had to be taken down, or else this would be a huge problem later down in the future. So because of this, while Swim Swim did show some regret, she decided to do what she felt was the right thing to do, and that is to end Tama's life right then and there. But after Tama's death, this would be the beginning of Swim Swim's downfall, as probably one thing that Swim Swim didn't take into consideration, or she probably did but didn't pay no attention to it, was that her actions were going to haunt her in the future. And that's exactly what would happen, as a magical girl known as Ripple wanted revenge for the death of Top Speed, as she considered Top Speed to be a very good friend. And of course, when she found out that she was pregnant and Swim Swim was responsible for that death as well, this only enraged her further. And once Ripple found out about Swim Swim's weakness, this being light and sound, this would ultimately end up with both of them agreeing to meet up, resulting in them having a showdown between each other. Now, one thing that's very interesting to learn about all this is that the reason why Swim Swim agreed to meet up at all in the beginning was because, due to her not having a group anymore, since all of her members passed away, Swim Swim's plan was to not only defeat Ripple, but to make her be one of her subordinates, and this would result into her once again being able to take down the last remaining magical girls. And with Ripple by her side, it will be hard for any of them to try to take her down. But this wouldn't happen, as this fight would be the end of Swim Swim, even though Swim Swim at first was actually very good at not only avoiding Ripple's attacks, but she was also good at landing a few hits at Ripple, so much so that she not only ended up cutting one of Ripple's eyes and also cutting one of Ripple's arms. And just when it seems that Swim Swim is going to be the one to win this battle, she will be caught off guard when Ripple not only throws some of her blood towards her eyes, and this results in her being blind for a moment, but Ripple will actually use a flashbang that will be a huge hit for Swim Swim. As reminder, light and sound are pretty much Swim Swim's only weaknesses, So because of this attack, Swim Swim goes back to her original form and is no longer in her magical girl form. And of course, she is also unconscious because of that attack. Ripple, realizing this is her only chance to take down Swim Swim, goes towards her, and while she is kind of surprised that this was a child that she was fighting with and knows that doing this is not going to be a good look for her, she ultimately decides to end Swim Swim's life right then and there by stabbing her with her katana, and that will be the end of Swim Swim. And just moments before her death, Swim Swim would reveal why she did everything she did, why she took so many lives, and why she felt that she had to do what she had to do. And the reason being was that Swim Swim at the end of the day just wanted to be a princess. She wanted to be the princesses that she looked up to, this being of course Ruler, but at the end of the day that would never happen as her life will be taken away by the person that was out to get her for everything that she did. Swim Swim was the definition of evil. Sure, you could argue that she is still a kid and she probably didn't know any better, but at the end of the day, even kids know that taking someone's life is wrong. And this all could just be summed up to as a person who became so corrupted with a mindset and a belief that someone else had. Ruler was clearly a huge influence to Swim Swim. Everything that Ruler believed in was something that Swim Swim also believed in. Ruler believed that only people who are in command can stay at the top. Ruler believed that anybody else who tried to take her spot as being at the top should be taken down no matter what. Ruler believed that there was no such thing as allies, since at the end of the day, she didn't see them as allies if they weren't useful to her. And of course, this is the biggest one, is that Ruler was taking advantage of vulnerable people like Tama and Swim Swim just for the sake of her own goal, which was something that later on Swim Swim would do, as she would also try to get vulnerable people to do things for her. That is something that Swim Swim learned from Ruler. And while there were a few moments that showed that Swim Swim did show some regret, like when one of the angels died, Swim Swim regretted it because she did not want any other member to pass away. Or when Tama died, she regretted ending her life because she was really close with Tama. She did like Tama and she wished that things didn't have to end this way. But these were just only a few moments. The rest, it shows that Swim Swim lacked any empathy or sympathy towards the people that she was killing, as in her mind this was something that was considered to be necessary evil in order to survive this death game. And also because she felt that this was something Ruler would do, as there would be many moments that Swim Swim would question what would Ruler have done or what would her methods be to surviving if she was still around, clearly indicating that while Ruler is no longer around physically, mentally she is still in Swim Swim's mind. And with these reasons alone, it not only makes Swim Swim the most evil character of the series, but probably one of the most evil characters in anime. And that's where I'm going to end today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.